Welcome, everybody, to LifeMaven Podcast, where we help you live in the energy of your legacy now. Today's guest is Lori DelFosse. She is a 37-year nurse, passionate entrepreneur, coach, and supporter of anybody in the industry who seeks a better life for themselves and their families. She helps people understand that partnering with a visionary of a forward-driven company is the most brilliant business model of the 21st century. She loves teaching men and women seeking a balanced work life how to create additional income stream or work full-time income by simply working from their house or anywhere in the world or any day of the week, whatever they want. So welcome to our guest, Lori DelFosse. Lori, welcome to LifeMaven Podcast.
Thank you so much, Jody. I'm excited to be here with you.
It's a lot of fun, isn't it? Lori, I have to know, how are you living in the energy of your legacy now?
Well, Jody, I made a commitment to myself 9 years ago that I was no longer going to be in the grind and work for someone else. And I quit the healthcare industry and ventured out on my own in creating an health education firm. I'm dedicated to helping people understand how their bodies work, and then using different types of alternatives, people are having their lives restored physically, as well as the business concept, but definitely physically. People are I'm getting all these reports back that people are not sick anymore. And that's the exciting part. I love this part of my job.
So how are you also living in the legacy of the energy of your legacy now?
So, I had to first go through my own little health crisis so then I could experience that and then be able to help other people with their health crisis. So because I was forced at 55, so 9 years ago, with my own health crisis, and I went out on a quest. I left healthcare, I left my job, I quit. I went out to Hawaii for 3 months. I said, I'm going to get my life in order. I want my body back. I want to feel great again. And because I had that commitment, I just said, I'm just jumping off the cliff and leaving the industry. And that's what I did. And I went there for 3 months. I found some answers and my health all returned. I don't have high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and blood sugar anymore. And I didn't have to go on medications. And so I'm excited to be able to share how I did that with other people. So I'm living in the legacy in the fact that I lived it, going down the spiral, being sick and getting sick, and knowing the direction of that, where that was going to head. And I didn't want that for myself. And it made me further motivated to help people. And when I found this company that I'm working with now, it's night and day. People are just, as a nurse of almost 40 years, my passion has been to help people. With this company, I finally am able to be the nurse I always wanted to be, to really help people reclaim their lives.
Could you help people when you were a nurse?
Well, yes, I did help them to the best of my ability, but I was in a system, in a construct that I didn't have control over. The healthcare industry now, it has so many rules and regulations, and nurses or healthcare people in general, their hands are tied. Everything is on the computer, and they have to all they do is most of the time, they're typing in the computer. They'll check some things on the patient, give them their medications, and then the rest of the time they're just on the computer. They got to check off so many boxes. And if the boxes are not checked, they may not get paid. So the hospital has a lot of pressure on the staff, because it's like, if you didn't check the boxes, and if you didn't check the boxes correctly, you won't get paid. So it's a very, very challenging environment now. I am so glad not to be in that environment anymore.
Wow. And this is speaking from somebody, you're not a regular nurse, but you are really on the very higher levels of nursing. So this really kind of speaks a lot about that system.
Yeah, so I started out as a pediatric ICU nurse bedside, so I was taking care of children, but then I advanced into management in hospice, home care, and hospital systems. So I really understand. And then I was also trained by the federal government as a quality compliance nurse, so I can go into facilities and I can assess quality care and make recommendations, give citations if we see any things that are happening that shouldn't be happening. So yeah, I'm on that higher level of understanding the healthcare system. But I found people in general, the staff in general, want to give the best care, but often their hands are tied. And it's not just physicians too. Often their hands are tied. It's now driven by insurances on what sometimes doctors have to are controlled on what they can even prescribe, because the healthcare industry says, well, no, you can't prescribe that drug because it doesn't have the indication for that issue for that patient. So it's a system that is so controlled now, and it's controlled by money, sadly. And you have all these people trying to do the best we can in that system. It's really, really challenging. Very, very stressful place to work, let alone stressful for patients.
This is just so interesting to me, because you're coming from a structure where, if I understand right, it's a lot of left brain, and now you're in a structure that's a lot of right brain. How do you bring the two together?
Well, and that's a beautiful thing, Jody, that I get to do, because I understand how the healthcare system works, the medical system. And what I've done in the last 9 years is search out alternatives in the wellness industry and bridging that. And often I'm called in helping people to advocate for them, or even communicate for them with their doctor. I might be on a 3-way call with their doctor, or I might actually be in a clinic with the patient, with their doctor, to help them communicate with the doctor, but also teach them how to ask the questions. Like, for example, many people don't even know that they can ask the doctor that, is there anything I can do to get off this medication? People don't even know that they have the right to ask that, or they have the ability to even ask that. And some doctors will say, well, sure, you want to get off that? Well, maybe. Or some doctors will say, you absolutely cannot get off of it ever. And I'm here to say, there's possibilities out there. That's where I come into play. I can help people understand how things work. And some of these alternatives have helped people when they've used them for themselves, that all of a sudden their blood pressure isn't a problem anymore. So now they're going back to their doctor. The doctor's like, what are you doing? Because your blood pressure is coming down. We can take you off one of those blood pressure medications. So that's the beautiful thing about, because I understand both systems now, that I can help people come into a place where I empower them to make the decisions for them. And I'm advocating for them, but I'm also helping them communicate with their doctor.
Oh, wow. That's a huge, huge gift, especially because of your talents that you're using it that way. And how do you look at women today, say over 50, over 60? Is there some trend that you've seen in all these years of nursing and your holistic care? Is there some trend you see about their health and taking care of themselves? Is there anything you notice at all?
Yes. And tragically, I'm getting calls from people that are women who are sicker and sicker and sicker, and they're going to the doctor. They're on like 10 to 15 medications. And when I also worked in the pharmaceutical industry, and in my training as a pharmaceutical rep, they said that every American adult would be on 7 to 10 pharmaceuticals by the time they hit about 60. And in the early 2000s, in that training for pediatrics, they said that every child in America would be on 3 to 5 medications. So the expectation, the projection, and how we taught physicians as a pharmaceutical rep were that people were going to be on all these medications. And certainly what I'm seeing now is it's absolutely on course of what I was trained in the early 2000s, that people are on so many medications. So I will help them understand what meds they're on, and I help them ask the doctor questions, because a lot of times they go to like maybe three or four different types of doctors, and then they've got all these medications coming in. Sometimes the doctor's offices have a nurse there to help go through the medications. But often the time at the clinic is such a short period of time for the doctor that they don't have time to go through all medications. So we can help people, teach them how they can, maybe ask their doctor, do I really need this one? What are some alternatives? So.
Wow. I just love that. And it just makes so much sense. It's so interesting that you say that because that's an old model. I mean, we're in 2024 and you're saying from the 2000s. I mean, that's an old idea that we seem to be holding on to.
Yes, and going back to your question about women in their 50s or 50s and above, I'm seeing even young women at 35 just having like system failure in their body, whether it's their kidneys or their hormones or their skin, and these diagnoses of just off the chart, lupus, MS, even Parkinson's starting in 40-year-olds. I mean, just amazing diagnoses that you didn't see 20 years ago. We didn't see these types of diagnoses with such younger people. You didn't see that maybe till like people in their 70s and 80s, and certainly not the number of illnesses and things that we're seeing now. And a lot of people are having organs removed. Oh my gosh. I tell you, Jody, I talk to someone every day that either has had their thyroid taken out or partially resected. And I'm like, why did that happen? Well, that's the doctor said I need it out. I'm like, okay, well, why did the doctor say you need it out? Like some people don't even understand what's happening for them. So I try to help advocate them, and people have been able to turn around their condition so they don't have to have those types of surgeries.
That is phenomenal. And, I know you have kind of an interesting personal story. I've never heard of a whole family that gives up 36 drugs or something amazing. What was it with your family that they actually don't have to be on prescription meds or something?
Yeah. So there's, this happened probably about 5 years ago. My sister and I got a call from my mom. She says, Lori, I think I'm dying. I'm like, Mom, what's going on? Tell me. She had no energy. She was sitting in her recliner most of the day. She could barely breathe. And so I flew in, my sister and I was looking at meds. So I was doing this for my mom too, right? And we said, well, we can look at some other options, alternatives. Let's see if we can bring these into your life and see how you respond. So my mom was responding favorably, also my dad as well. So my guy, Kevin, and I, and mom and dad, and Tina and her husband, 36 pharmaceuticals for the six of us collectively.
Oh my God.
And yeah, so we decided, let's see what we can do to get off these medications. Now, of course, these meds we're doing it in conjunction with the doctor, right? My mom's not going cold turkey off of blood pressure medications, things like that. But we're talking about thyroid medication, blood pressure medication, memory medication, ADHD medication, pain medication, even acne medication. My sister was on an antibiotic for almost 40 years. She was on for her acne. She's now off of all those medications. She's off of the antibiotic. She's got really clear skin now. And she's not on any of these drugs, nor my mom or my dad or any of us. We're off of all of them because we have found other ways and understanding how the body works and other alternatives that are helping the body support the body naturally. So we don't need them. And our lab values are all normal. We're feeling fantastic. My mom is 89. My dad's 91. They are younger than they were 6 years ago when I showed up, and mom said she felt like she was dying.
Now, I assume that everybody had to do something consistent. It's like you just magically didn't, this didn't happen overnight. I assume there's some sort of commitment there. I think sometimes people think that there's a magic pill or a magic whatever in life. And I'd love to know your response to that.
Yeah. So the concept of having your body return and feel younger and get healthy is not by a pill, and it's not a quick fix. It takes time and patience. So we start with nutrition. We look at nutrition. We look at supplements. Some of the supplements are fake. We don't even know if some of those supplements are real, right? So we look at all of the things, all these types of things, but also incorporating things like meditation, relaxation, because we know that when you reduce your stress, you also have a healthier body. We know that that's proven in science and so forth. So there's tons of studies that show that. So there's different things we can bring in. And then there's other medical alternatives, wellness alternatives. Some of it's devices. Some of it is different types of medical, science, technology, like light therapy, those kinds of things. So bringing these things in, but you're absolutely right. It's a daily expectation to do these things. And sometimes my mom's like, don't you have to do all these today? It's like, well, Mom, if you want to feel great for the next week, it's totally up to you. And so, we spend a little time in the morning, but it's much better than popping 5 pills and feeling awful by 2 in the afternoon that you got to take a nap, and then you're all groggy for dinner and you go to bed, kind of got a messed up head. So that's the trade-off. It takes a little time and patience, but in doing that, we kind of walk around with a smirk and smile on our face, even with our family and extended family. They're like, why are you guys all like smirking all the time? It's like, we feel great. So.
Well, that's, one thing that I thought was interesting is that when you said about the consistency as well, I reminded, so what about somebody brushing their teeth? They say, well, do I have to brush my teeth every day? Well, you don't, but if you don't want gum disease and if you don't want anything dangerous, you might want to consider brushing your teeth every day. So that's what I'm kind of hearing, this analogy that you get to feel good. You have to do a couple of things there.
Exactly. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's consistency and commitment to yourself, to your best health and your best self. Absolutely.
Wow. Well, what are some words of wisdom that help you in your down times? I know we all have them up and down, but something that keeps you going, perhaps a quote or words or something that you hear that and you get renewed energy.
Well, there's 2 things, and this one of them. Did you ever hear that book? Everything I Needed to Learn, I Learned in Kindergarten.
I was a kindergarten teacher,
and that book is great. But oh my God, you were! Oh, yeah, so you know. But the book, The Little Engine That Could. I mean, that has stuck with me. I don't know. Maybe it was read to me when I was 2 years old. But 1930, Platt and Monk are the authors. But the saying, when I'm up against something a little bit tough, I start out right with the little engine. I think I can. I think I can. I know I can. I know I can. I know I can. I know I can. And when I get on the other side of it, and it could be like I'm having if I have to have a hard conversation with somebody, I'll just pull that out. I think I can. I think I can. I know I can. And then on the other side of it, I'm walking out of an office of a hard conversation. I'm like, I knew I could. I knew I could. I knew I could. So, go back to when you were kindergarten. There's a lot of really great information there.
I love that. I mean, and I love the fact it's so simple, and yet it can be so profound.
Yeah. And then the other thing really goes back to the basis of my nursing and just in general, and I grew up this way too, that the greatest force within each one of us, or, for our health, is the natural healing force within each one of us is the greatest force in getting well. And that was written by Hippocrates. So that whole concept has been around for, I don't know if it's a millennium, but, centuries, that the body can really it has the ability to do that. And if we get in a mindset, what can I do today to get myself into maximize on my body's own personal force? That in doing so, we've gotten off, like I said, off of all those medications. Mom and Dad, I have 4 brothers, sister, dog and cats, Mom and Dad. We would reach, Mom and Dad go to the cabinet, or, they'd make their chicken noodle soup or vitamin C in the orange juice. And, wash cool cloth on your head. And, Mom would have to stay home from work sometimes to take care of us. But by day 2 or 3, we're totally fine. We didn't need the quick fix. So that really is a shift too. And I see people shifting a little bit now, that if they're feeling really awful, they're not forcing themselves to go into an office to go to work. I really appreciate people like, you know what, I need to just be down and out and rest.
Yes. And I'm grateful for that. I thank God I don't have to go into an office. I work remote. But yet I'm really happy to hear that, because it's really considerate of other people, even though it's tough, because I know that when I worked in a hospital 1,000 years ago, I was not medical. And I remember we only had 3 days off a year. 3 sick days rather. And that was tough. That was very, very tough.
Yeah. Back in those days. Yeah. The philosophy was different, wasn't it? It was almost kind of like you show up no matter what. Like the work ethic was like, you show up no matter what, even if you're dragging your leg because your knee hurts so bad, you're going to show up and do your job. I mean, that's how it was when we were younger, right?
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Very difficult. Well, please share with our audience what your business can offer them.
So my business can offer, I help individual people, but I also will even go into groups, or even work with HR departments. So I can come into companies that want to, working with the HR department, help maximize people's health. I do a full questionnaire, and so I will contract myself out with different HR companies. So that's one way. But also I provide individual support or even family support if people want to look at ways for alternatives and trying to help themselves. And many times, if they're getting the answers from their doctor, their healthcare provider, like, there isn't any more we can do for you. There's a lot of people that are getting those kinds of responses. Please reach out to me, because we have so many options. And one of the options that I've shared, that I've been sharing lately, just night and day for people. Some like it in a matter of a day or two or three, or maybe a week or two, but really reversing health conditions that they've been told that they will have forever. And that isn't the case.
That is, and what's so wonderful is that the miracles are here today, and it's proven in many ways, different ways. And especially having someone like you with this extensive scientific medical background, I think that we're in a new direction. I'd like to think we're in a new direction with our health,
Yeah, Jody, absolutely. And there's a group of doctors that are working with the technology that we know about, that are even like, they're saying this is the greatest breakthrough in my career, of my 40-year career. It's almost criminal not to share it. I mean, they're doctors, MDs are feeling this way. They have to share this technology.
Thank you for sharing your technology, your wisdom, and your hope for all of us on LifeMaven Podcast. Such a thrill to have you today, Lori.
Thank you so much, Jody. Glad to be here.
Glad you were.